Tell us a little bit about your character. Who is she, and what's going on in her life when we meet her?
I play a young single mother named Claire, who is an assistant to an awful, awful boss, played by Melissa McCarthy, who early on in the film goes to jail for embezzling money and fraud. So she finds herself taking a desk job that she doesn't love, and is then put upon by her old boss, who starts to sleep on her couch and make her life miserable, and ultimately convinces her to start a brownie empire. So it's a very simple log line for the film.
How relatable is your character to you?
Extremely relatable. She's the straight man in the movie, which I was happy to play and is much easier for me. I can definitely relate to wanting the best for my daughters, which is sort of Claire's resounding personality trait.
What did you think of the writing when you first read it?
I thought it was very, very funny. There are so many scenes in this movie that I had genuinely never seen before. I've never seen someone try to whiten someone else's teeth in a movie. I've never seen a boob fight where girls were punching each other in the breasts and slapping them around. I've never seen a street fight with children and knives. And so it was a pretty experimental movie that I wanted to be a part of.
And what sort of a co-star is Melissa? Is she a force of nature?
On screen, she's a force of nature. As a comedian, she's a genius, and you have all these grand adjectives to describe her. But in person, she's quite soft and demure and has this ability to make you feel like an old friend the moment you meet her. So her presence on camera is very intimidating, but in real life, she's the most open, wonderfully non-intimidating person.
Now, some of the comedy is very physical. Did you have some physical parts as well?
I was the only person left out of all the physicality. It was really on Melissa's shoulder. There's a sword fight, and so she and Pete had to train for this 5-minute sword fight, and she has this dance number, and she's a really good dancer, I discovered, and a very good rapper. She raps with T-Pain in the movie and has this 5-minute Beyonce-esque dance number, and she killed it. So I was just sort of sitting on the sidelines rooting for her the whole time.
Where do you think it comes from, her comedic ability?
I think, I don't know. I think she knew really early on what she was supposed to do. You get a lot of pleasure out of making other people laugh. And when you can do it easily, when the instincts come naturally to you, it becomes like a fix, a hit. You want it more and more. It's a joyful feeling. And I remember her telling me a story about how she was very early on in her career, and it hadn't even been a career yet. She was on stage in the Groundlings for many years without a professional job, and she decided to tell her parents she was going into production, the other end of it. And her mom said, "Okay, that's great, but when are you going to get back to doing what you do?" And I thought that was so sweet. I think she's always known she was meant to perform and make people laugh.
Now, her character, as you explained at the very beginning, is a horrible, greedy human being. How frequently do you run into people like that in this town?
I don't run into people like that very often, and when I do, I run very quickly in the other direction. I think life is too short to deal with big egos. That's why we poke fun at it in this movie. I think that's part of the reason it was so easy for her to write, because it's so far from who she is. And I find it absurd when you take yourself very seriously or are wildly narcissistic. To me, it's just an unrealistic way of being.
How do you make your creative choices? How do you choose your films? Based on what?
Mostly spontaneity, in truth. I don't try to plan too much ahead. I don't think you can. There's 1,000 roles I've auditioned for that I've not gotten. And every single one, when I was auditioning, I thought, this is the one. This is going to be such a great experience for me if I get this part. And then you get a call that you didn't get it again, and you just go, oh, okay, on to the next. But every choice I've made has just been a gut reaction. And particularly because I've wanted to work with the human beings involved. To me, it's less about the product and more about, am I going to have fun on this?